Today we will be discussing the Ethiopia final analysis. I'm Ella DePietro.
I'm Courtney Sheehan.
I'm Eric Fox.
I'm Abby Green.
I'm Chen Hao Huang.
So for some historical overview, Ethiopia is the oldest country in Africa. They've had a very tumultuous history over the years with numerous wars, famines, and droughts. The Battle of Adwa in 1896 was a source of great pride for the country since it was the first time any African nation had defeated a major European power. The Constitution was adopted in December of 1994, and elections for Parliament were held in early 1995, and they were installed in August of that year.
Some geography on Ethiopia. It's the second largest country in Africa with over 80 different ethnic groups within the country. It's known as the Horn of Africa because it's located within the horn of the continent. Their largest mountain is the highest peak in Africa called Ras Dashen. The Great Rift Valley is one of the highlands within the country, and it includes a desert that has the lowest dry point on Earth. Some high and low temperatures within the country are 120 degrees and as low as 62. And during the rainy season, it falls between June to mid-September with an average of 40 inches of rain during that season.
Today in Ethiopia, there are more than 94 million people that call this country home. There are 5 major ethnic groups consisting of the Oromo, Amhara, Tigray, Sidamo, and Somali. Over 70 languages are spoken in Ethiopia, with the most popular being Amharic, Amharina, and Oromifa, Oromina. There are 4 classifications of the 70 different languages, and they are Semitic, Cushitic, Omotic, and Nilotic.
To talk about the power distance in Ethiopia, the people accept and expect that power is distributed unequally. The degree to which a person is able to influence other people's ideas and behaviors. In Ethiopia, the score of Hofstede's framework is a 70, and in the United States, the score of Hofstede's is a 40. So in Ethiopia, there's an unequal distribution of wealth and power, and in the United States, people can rise up in society.
Now for individualism. Individualism countries normally are wealthier. They have a persistent work ethic. They have greater individual initiative, and promotions are based on market value, like countries like the U.S. and Canada and Sweden. Collectivist countries, which is what Ethiopia is classified under, are normally poorer, less supportive, worth ethic, less individual initiative, and promotions are based on seniority. The degree of interdependence is how a society maintains the amount of members within its community. It has to do with whether people's self-image is determined by terms of I or we. Within collectivist societies of the collectivist society of Ethiopia, people belong to groups or communities, and they take care of them in exchange for their loyalty. Ethiopia's score is 20. This is manifests in a close long-term commitment to the member within the group. This could be a family or extended family or any extended relationship beyond that, so they're responsible for the members within their group. The US's score is 91. This society is a loosely knit society, and people look after themselves and are rarely a group of people. And then, yeah.
Ethiopia scored a 55, and the U.S. scored a low 46 on the uncertainty avoidance. Characteristics of uncertainty-avoidant cultures include strict laws and rules, safety and security measures, and belief in absolute truth, meaning there is only one truth in the world and that it is what they believe. Ethiopians use these to minimize the possibility of uncertain situations.
Long-term and short-term orientation. With long-term orientation score countries, the characteristics are shown as following: persistent, thrill, ordering relationships by stats. And Ethiopia scored 25, which is low short-term orientation, and United States have scored a 26 in short-term orientation as well, which means both countries are more likely to analyze all the information they get and see whether they are true or not, or they are doable or not. Both countries do respect for traditions such as churches and are still around, or Ethiopians have their local beliefs. People often return back of greetings, favors, and gifts. Also, everyone have their own ideas, such as how many Americans have strong opinion on child abortion or weapons rights. Political summaries: the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democrat Front uh, established the current constitution in 1994 and held the first multi-party election in 1995. National elections recently took place in May 2015. Opponents of the EPRDF find it nearly impossible to operate inside Ethiopia. In the lead-up to the May 2015 elections, there are more than 50 opposition parties members were intimidated, beaten, and arrested. In the end, EPRDF won the election and then control over Ethiopia more than 20 years, which caused the government has become less centralized.
When it comes to political risks in Ethiopia, in October of 2016, major protests occurred in the country. This was due to the belief that the government was illegally seizing land of the people and giving it away for little or no compensation. During the protests, thousands of people were arrested, and the government started to censor information. This was done by the fact that the government is the sole owner of the only national TV station, and they also own many of the radio stations. The only two internet sites that you can access in Ethiopia are either state-owned or pro-government sites, and privately owned anti-government newspapers are on the rise in response to these events. When it comes to human rights and safety, Ethiopia's education indicators are still poor. Only 63% of males are literate and less than 50% of females are literate. Ethiopian government's voluntary commune program has become a highly controversial event. This is due to the belief that the government is illegally seizing land and giving it away with no compensation. The government controls all media, as stated before. This could lead to disinformation, which directly violates the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which guarantees access to truthful information regardless of government. And there's a large amount of kidnapping that goes on in the country due to the Al-Shabaab terrorist network that's located in Somalia, which is directly east of the country.
Ethiopia is one of the leading countries for international climate change policies and high stability in Africa. Ethiopia appears to have heeded past problems and chosen to follow a different, more sustainable path. It finds itself somewhat of an authority on achieving sustainability due to past experiences. Some programs that were launched to combat climate change and achieve economic growth are Ethiopia's Climate Resilient Green Economy, the NCE project of the Global Commission on the Economy and Climate, the Sustainable and Land Management Program, the government-backed International Enterprise for Sustainable Development, and this is a German organization partnered with Ethiopian government organizations to tackle environmental issues. This program includes promoting the use of terracing, crop rotation systems, improvement of pasture land, and permanent green cover.
Social and economic challenges. Ethiopia is one of the fastest growing economic in the world. Its GDP growth from 8.2% in 2013 and increased to 10.3% in 2014. However, it dropped down to 9.3% in 2015. Ethiopia's credit rating is B. It reflects the balance between some of its weaker structure features, such as a low level of development and a weak private sector, indicating weak to shocks and strong economic performance. Primary agriculture such as coffee, oilseeds, and plots and livestock products. Government has invested heavily in infrastructure, but it's too slow since most of goods are expensive and there lack of many resources.
For branches of government, Ethiopia has a federal democratic republic, and this means that they have both the president and a prime minister, but the prime minister holds the most power. The executive power expressed and is exercised, and it is similar to what we have here in the United States, including the judiciary branch, executive branch, and a legislative branch. And corruption still lies within.
So for resolving business conflicts, they have three main ways that they do it. They have negotiation, which is proposed resolutions from both parties. They have mediation, which is when a third party mediator comes in to facilitate the resolution process. And then they have community conferencing, which is structured conversation involving all members of a group. Once the conflict is resolved, it is put in the past and is no longer talked about ever again.
When it comes to trade, their exports valued at almost $5.5 billion, with agriculture being the main source of their exports. Coffee alone makes up 17% of their total exports, which is almost $1 billion in value. The largest non-agricultural product that they export is refined petroleum at 13%, which is also almost $1 billion of their total exports. The major countries which their exports go to are Kuwait, Somalia, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and the United States only gets about 5% of their total exports. When it comes to imports, they import almost 3 times as much stuff as they export, with machinery being one of the largest categories, coming in at almost a third of their total imports. The largest single product that they import is refined petroleum at around 12%, and their major import partners are China, coming in at 33%, which is far above every other country that they import from. The next closest is Kuwait, which is only at 7.8%, or around $1.37 billion, and the US only exports into Ethiopia around $1 billion worth of stuff annually.
Ethiopia is a net capital importer and receives more investment than it invests abroad. The current account balance of Ethiopia is negative 2710.10 million United States dollars. The current account to GDP is negative 5.9%. Net capital accounts include government debt forgiveness, investment grants in cash or in kind by a government entity, and taxes on capital transfers. Ethiopia's foreign direct investment net inflows was at 3.5% of the GDP. The foreign direct investment inward flow was to 2168 million United States dollars. The top business investors in Ethiopia are in maize and wheat milling plants, construction and real estate, agriculture and food processing, food and beverage crops, and livestock. These investments help businesses provide employment to the population and strengthen the economy.
For the GDP and growth of economy, Ethiopia is the second most populated country. Their GDP annual growth rate increased from 29.93% to 61.54%. Their agricultural GDP growth was from 268 billion to 274 billion, which is about 10 billion US dollars. Their manufacturing GDP growth was from 104 billion to 125 billion, which is about 5 billion US dollars. And their services GDP growth was from 325 billion to 353 billion, which is about the equivalent to 15 billion US dollars.
For Ethiopian exchange rates, 1 Ethiopian birr equals out to about 4 cents to the US dollar, and 1 US dollar equals out to about 22.72 Ethiopian birrs. Wages in Ethiopia are typically much lower. The monthly salary in Ethiopia is about $213 compared to about $2,500 in the US. The national bank has become stronger and over the years has stabilized, which makes for a beneficial partnership in a growing economy. It is also more dependent and worthy of international affairs such as trade, distribution, etc.
For the market potential analysis, the MIP scale for the country risk was a C rating. This is the third worst risk any country can receive. This means that it is incredibly risky, or at least below average, in doing business in the country. They also received a D rating for the business climate scale. This is the second worst rating that any country could get, and this also suggests that it is very dangerous to be running a business in Ethiopia. When it comes to the ease of business, they've ranked 159th overall in the world. And when it comes to starting a business, they're 179th in the world compared to the US ranking 8 and 51st, respectively. Some other measures that are incredibly difficult are dealing with construction permits, getting electricity, protecting minority investors. The majority of these measures have improved over the last year, with the exceptions of getting credit and paying taxes, which results from a change in the tax code. When it comes to the 12 pillars of competition, you see the 12 pillars on the left side there. Ethiopia is classified as a factor-driven economy, which means they focus more on low-cost labor, unprocessed natural resources. For the first 4 pillars, they had a score out of 7.0. They got a 3.7, which ranks them 117th out of the 144 that were ranked in this scale. The next 5 pillars, so 5 to 10, they scored a 3.4, ranking them 120th out of the 144 that were measured. And pillars 11 and 12, they scored a 3.1, ranking 119. And right below that, you see that the United States is innovation-driven, and they ranked in the top 20% or better in all of the pillars.
Ethiopia is the poorest of the world's major coffee consumption nations. Compared to other coffee consumption countries, Ethiopia's consumption percentage is much higher than other urban countries. It has have high demand outside the country as well as in the country. As research shows, people consume nearly 200 cups of coffee per GDP capita in 2016. Coffee is their main source of export revenue. It covers 20 to 30% of country's total export earnings. The location of Ethiopia is near equator, which is the best place for coffee to grow. Ethiopia's coffee is well known over worldwide. USA is one of major importing country, and coffee markets were supported by the government, which helps the coffee market to grow.
To touch base on the market size, there's 94.1 million people living in Ethiopia currently. The coffee industry employs about 15 million people, where 10,000 coffee producers are present. 1.3% average annual growth rate in global coffee consumption since the coffee year ending in 2013. So the demand is over the supply. Although the U.S. does not currently turn to Ethiopia for coffee bean trade, their rich and fertile land makes the country much more worthy to trade within. The country could also potentially produce coffee beans in mass amounts compared to the other countries that have been growing exponentially over the past years.
Licensing is granting the right to produce and sell your product in return for royalties. Foreign direct investment occurs when a firm directly invests in new facilities to produce and or market in a foreign country. Some pros of licensing include keeping costs minimal, increased market share, brand recognition, and increased job growth. Some cons are it has a loss of control and some nations don't have the capabilities. Some pros of FDI are it creates jobs in host countries, helps maintain account surplus, increase competition and economic growth, stimulates capital investments, allows locational benefits, and circumvents trade barriers. Some of the cons are it drives local companies out of business, it may monopolize the market, capital outflow, and a loss of economic independence. We think that foreign direct investment entry mode is best for Ethiopia because it comes with more pros than licensing does. We recommend that Ethiopia uses the foreign direct investment entry mode for exporting coffee to the US, Kuwait, and Somalia, and also importing from Kenya because of the significant number of pros it has over licensing.
Thank you for listening.